Hello everybody, thank you so much for clicking to my first video on this channel. My name is Gemini, an Astro Hottie that enjoys talking about all things tarot and astrology. So I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I first started learning about astrology and tarot about 3 years ago now. So in the deep, dark depths of when Miss Rona was taking over, child. It was a time in my life where I had a lot of free time. I was lost and looking for a bit of direction. It's not too different from a place where a lot of people are when they first start getting into astrology and tarot. But yeah, I'd always known about astrology when I was younger, but I kept my knowledge pretty surface level and mainstream. Like I didn't even know what my moon was until 3-4 years ago. And then with tarot, I kind of got involved with that a few months after I started really learning about astrology. Naturally speaking, I was also on my own spiritual journey. And so I learned about it a little bit, did a lot of pick a cards on YouTube and stuff like that, but didn't order my first deck until probably 6 months afterwards. And ever since then, I just never looked back. But yeah, from there, I really took to it and dedicated myself to learning these practices whenever I could. And with that being said, I'm still very much a student. I've practiced readings on my friends' charts. I've practiced readings on myself, especially tarot. With birth chart readings, I'm better at doing other people's. I can't for the life of me read my chart, and that's probably because all of my placements are in the 12th house, so a lot of things are just about myself are just hidden. Not surprised there. But yeah, with tarot, it's not as frequent as I do chart readings, but still something that I'm practicing, and like I said before, very much still learning. A little bit ahead of the beginner, but not at all by any means an expert. So I created this channel because I wanted to share and learn what I've gathered throughout the years with a wider audience, as well as force myself to get more practice in. I can only talk at my friends for so long. You know what I'm saying? They care about astrology because I care about astrology because they're really good friends, but they don't really give a fuck. So I just wanted to kind of create an avenue where I could talk about it. And even if this ends up with me talking to the void or talking to literally one other person, I enjoy talking about astrology. I enjoy talking about tarot. As you can probably tell, I am a Gemini through and through. So I just like talking. I just like learning things here and there and then sharing it. So yeah. So with that being said, let's get into the topic of this first video. And what better way to introduce a channel than to introduce the aspect of astrology that everybody starts out with. The zodiac signs. There are 12 signs in the zodiac split into 4 categories by elements, meaning there are 3 signs in fire, earth, air, and water. So the first sign is Aries. Aries is ruled by Mars and associated with the first house. Aries is a very fast-paced, independent, go-getter of the signs. Very ambitious and forward-moving, has that explosive energy to it. Like I said, very quick and staunchly independent. Independent meaning they're typically the first in a group to pursue something. They might be the first in their family to go pursue a college education. They might be the first in their friend group to start a business. Aries is associated with the god of war, action, pain, anger, ruled by Mars, meaning there's a lot of will and drive behind their energy. Aries tends to also not be a planner because they're so focused on being action oriented. Sometimes they skip the details. Because it's the first of the zodiac, I like to think of it as a more youthful energy. There are times where people with a lot of Aries energies can appear immature or very youthful because they are not focused on their surroundings too much. They're focused on what they can do to push forward. There's a lot of I energy going on, which is not bad, and I don't want anybody to think this is a terrible thing. You need to be selfish. People with a lot of Aries placements or even Aries North nodes, karmic Aries energies, they're here to be more selfish. They're here to focus on themselves and figure out what they can do to progress and improve in life. Some cool things that Aries rules. Aries rules the head. Aries rules the skull. That's why when the moon or certain transits are happening in Aries, a lot of people tend to have headaches. It also rules running, weapons, any type of sharp objects, of course fire, and also rules the eyes. At its best, an Aries has a lot of willpower, very passionate, expressive, direct, and accomplished. Their movement might be sloppy, but at least they're doing it, and the world doesn't demand perfection, just effort. At its worst, Aries energy is egregiously angry, violent, unaware, and too selfish for its own good. Honestly, if you have a business idea and you can't get it off the ground because you're too scared or too stagnant, I would get an Aries on board. They're going to get you up until you get your ass moving, okay? Moving on, we have the second sign of the zodiac, which is Taurus. Tauruses are ruled by pretty Venus and associated with the second house. In terms of action, it's a near opposite of Aries. This energy is more slow-paced and somewhat lethargic. So there's this stereotype that everybody knows that all Tauruses are lazy, which can be true for sure. However, it's not always the case, and there's actually a reason for their slowness. So Tauruses, the energy, it rules luxuriousness, money, food, things like resources that are needed for our safety and our comfort. And so that stubbornness or that stagnation that is associated with Tauruses. Remember, we're still in this early part of the zodiac where there's this more primal need, or like we still want to fill our basic needs. These energies encapsulate that sort of energy. And so, I mean, if you had all this food, your bed's comfy, you got a roof over your house that you like, you're not gonna want to just up and go somewhere where you don't even know where if you're gonna have the same type of food that you have back at home. It's sort of like that. Some interesting things that Taurus rules. It rules music, wealth, tangible art and beauty. So hair, makeup, nails, jewelry, things of that sort. It also rules the throat. So a lot of singers tend to have Taurus placements. I'm not sure if I can say this on YouTube, but I have a friend who has a lot of 8th house Taurus energy, and we call them the throat goat. Let me stop playing. But at its best, Tauruses are steady, luxurious, and very loyal. At its worst, Tauruses are stubborn to a fault, lazy, and gluttonous. Another way of saying it is too indulgent. Tauruses love food. Like I said, the resources, the comfort, whatever brings them comfort, like to stay in their bed, and they like to eat. Not all the time, but that's an example of the indulgent behaviors. And next is Gemini. I am ruled by Gemini, if you couldn't tell. I actually have 5 placements in Gemini, so I might be a little bit more biased in this section, but I'll try my best to be objective. I realized I haven't been saying the elements of each sign so far, so Aries is a fire element and Taurus is earth, Gemini is air. Geminis are ruled by the planet Mercury and associated with the 3rd house. So any form of communication is ruled by Gemini, meaning written communication or verbal communication. Some of the common stereotypes associated with Geminis are that they're witty, there's this talkative energy, of course, they bounce around from one idea to another, and they can be two-faced. We're still in the early phases of the zodiac, and so Geminis have this very youthful energy. It rules siblings, early childhood, things of that nature. In mythology, Gemini is known as the messenger. So it was the only god that could, I can't remember it right now, but it was the only god that could travel between heaven and hell without falling into either of sorts. So it was kind of a good mediator between the two. And Gemini also rules a lot of like information facts. It's not as detail oriented as Virgo. And so there's this common phrase that a lot of astrologers use for Gemini called Jack of all trades, master of none. We like to know a little bit about everything. However, boredom sets in when you get too deep into something, depending on your placements, of course. That's why you might have a Gemini who is suddenly interested in one thing and spends maybe a month just like diving into it, and then the next thing you know, they're like, oh, I don't care anymore, and then they jump to another thing. They're more of a, I know all these little facts to help me with the bigger picture, but I'm not trying to get too deep into one thing. Some cool things that Gemini rules are books, cars, hands, the lungs. A lot of people with Gemini placements have to be very careful about what they're inhaling a lot because the lungs are very vulnerable. And journalism and interviews. At its best, Gemini energy is quick, witty, funny, informative, objective, and intellectual. At its worst, Geminis are flighty, unreliable, nervous, and stressed. Now, if there's a conflict between two people and you need a mediator, Geminis are probably your go-to person because they are the sign that's most likely to hear both sides out without making a decision. Now make sure that they like you because we do have a mischievous side to us. And on that same note, if you are ever in a situation where you need someone to get you, like talk you out of something, or you need someone to talk another person out of something, get you a Gemini, because the way that a Gemini can lie like that, it's kind of insane. Next up, we have my lovely nurturing Cancers. Cancers are a water sign. They are the maternal, nurturing, and supportive figures of the Zodiac. Ruled by the moon and associated with the 4th house, it's no surprise that they are also associated with aspects of the home. People with a lot of Cancer placements are homebodies. They are the maternal, nurturing figures. They're the people who want to support you and watch you grow from wherever you are. Cancers are sensitive, and because they're ruled by the moon, their emotions can go in waves. They can go really high, really low. They're very in tune with what they're feeling. Sometimes that can be out of whack, and other times it's the most stable and purest form of love that you could ever experience. Cancers are actually a lot more reserved than many people would think because it's associated with the home and the roots, and they're very protective of their space, of their family and their friends and loved ones, but they're still open enough to where they are caring all around. And another thing too, because it's associated with motherhood, I don't give a damn. That baby making drive is high in a Cancer. Some interesting things that Cancer rules are the breasts, the chest area, the waves in the sea, baths, crabs of course, and just generally like pools of water. Cancers are still a bit early in the zodiacs. They're very nurturing and caring, and they, like I said, not a bad thing, but they expect others to also give that degree of support and nurturing at all times, because that's what they typically do. And so when it's not reciprocated, they can take that as a personal attack. At its best, Cancer energy is very loving, supportive, nurturing. If you need something that's going to make you feel safe, someone that's going to make you feel safe, get you a Cancer. If you need someone that is going to help you be more in tune with your emotions, because everybody needs to be in tune with their emotions, get you a Cancer. At their worst, Cancers are emotionally unstable and overwhelming. in terms of their emotions. So sometimes they can really be smothering, they can hover over you, things of that nature. Next up, we have the other fire sign, Leos. Leos are ruled by the sun, and they are associated with the 5th house. Leos are big, bold, bright, and beautiful. They're passionate. Because they're associated with the 5th house, there's a lot of socializing going on. Clubs and parties are ruled by Leo. Big, beautiful hair is associated with the Leo energy. Leos are very charming and magnetic energies. And yes, it is true, Leos like being the center of attention, or there is that desire to have eyes on them. Difference between Aries and Leo in terms of, the whole attention thing is Aries have more of an inward attention, like I'm focusing on myself and I'm going to put myself in a position to move forward, whereas Leos, it is attention on themselves, but it's more of like, I want everybody else to also look at me. And sometimes Leos don't even have to look for that type of attention. It just naturally is placed on them. There's also so much creativity and fun and just imagination associated with Leo energy. Because it's so big and passionate and fun and happy, we typically associate it with a lot of our creative endeavors, our hobbies. It's associated with even the fun that you have in romantic relationships. So maybe not something as serious as a long-term relationship, but the dating part of relationships where you get to meet each other, you still have butterflies in your stomach and things of that nature. At its best, Leos are proud, they are courageous, they are creative, they're fun, and they're charming. At their worst, Leos can be too prideful, they can be self-centered, self-focused, and they can be quite exploitative. If you need someone to light up the room and get the party started, get a Leo in there, child. And I almost forgot, like, one of the most important things, Leos are associated with children. Like, think about it. Children are so fun-loving, excitable, creative. They're very much, like, they have that playful energy, and children tend to capture the eyes of everybody in the room, just, naturally speaking. Hey, everyone. This video got way too long, so I will be stopping at Libra, and in the next video I will do the rest of the zodiac signs. Sorry about that. You can definitely tell I'm new around here. But anyways, moving on, now we have Virgos. Virgos are the second earth sign in this series. They are also associated with the 6th house. In traditional and modern astrology, Virgo is ruled by Mercury. Virgo is associated with service. It is associated with investigation and nitpickiness and perfection in animals, as well as health. The reason why I listed all the things that it is represented by first is because it will help with its explanation. So Virgos in mainstream tend to be or portrayed as the perfectionist. They also have this stereotype of the Virgin Mary for some reason. Well, I guess that reasoning came from Virgos, or people with Virgo energy tend to be really self-critical and nitpicky, especially if it comes to their image, depending on where it's placed in their chart, that they will abstain from anything that could make things dirty. Virgo's associated with cleanliness because it's that nitpickiness that comes out in every aspect of their lives. Due to their detail-oriented nature, they don't leave any stone unturned. Very self-critical and very critical of others. One thing about Virgos that I've noticed is as much as they will harp on someone verbally or on the outside, they probably said worse to themselves. So this is a gentle reminder, be nice to yourself, Virgos. Virgos are fixer-uppers. Like I said before, they love to help. They're service workers. If you need help tidying up, if you need help improving something, if you need someone that has a detail-oriented eye, get you a Virgo. Ever since joining the workforce, a lot of office workers are Virgos, and explains why I always want to fight everybody. Just kidding, guys. Kinda. At their best, Virgos are meticulous, intelligent, and well-grounded. At their worst, Virgos are very self-critical, hypercritical of everybody and everything, bossy, nitpicky, and overbearing. And last but certainly not least for this video are our wonderful signs, Libra. Libras are ruled by Venus in both traditional and modern astrology, and it is associated with the 7th house. The symbol represented by or for Libra is scales, so they're very much concerned about balance, about keeping the peace. Not that they won't confront conflict, but they would rather not if they can help it. They're also very in tune with being in relationships, whether that be romantic, platonic, familial. They love to have somebody else around. So Aries is its sister sign, whereas Aries is very independent. Libra is very much so involved with someone or something. Libras are associated with beauty, so Taurus is associated with the tangible parts of beauty. Libra is more about the artistic, poetic signs of beauty. So whereas Taurus is more of the music, the thing that you can listen to and sing, Libra is more associated with the poeticness of the song, the love that comes out of the song, the feeling that comes out of that. So as we start to get to the more the signs that are further on the zodiac, we are less focused on fulfilling our primal needs and more focused on, kind of like an evolved step of beauty. Libra is a masculine sign, believe it or not, and it demands beauty. So people with Libra risings who have personal planets in Libra, they demand that everything looks okay, everything is kept together. People with Saturn in Libra demands, put togetherness. So not as strict as maybe Virgo in terms of like wanting to keep a neat image, but rather judgmental. Something that Libras share with Geminis as air signs, because they like to keep the peace and don't like to cause unnecessary conflict. At least they have trouble deciding on what they want. They don't know whether to tip the scales one way or the other, and it gets them in trouble sometimes. At their best, Libras are kind, they're sociable, they're fair, and they're just. At their worst, Libras can be indecisive, unreliable, and a bit naive. Because they indulge in having partnerships, sometimes they can make themselves too vulnerable to giving. They're focused on other people, whereas sometimes they need to be focused on themselves. So finally, that concludes the first half of an introduction to the zodiac signs, as well as my first ever video here on YouTube. Yay! And thank God, because it is 11 o'clock at night and I'm a grandma and I gotta go to bed. Also, sorry the video was so long. I totally did not expect this to take this much time. I thought it was about to be a 10-minute video, but doesn't matter. We got a lot of good information in there. I hope this was informative for you guys and I hope you enjoyed it. Please let me know what you think. All feedback is appreciated. If there's something that you want me to delve in more in the second part of the video, please leave a comment below. Always happy. There's so much that I left out because if I were to go into every bit of detail about every sign, we'd be here for days. Again, thank you for tuning in. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.